Hey you, Meowkaiser coming back at you today with another guide. This is something that's been overdone, but at the same time I feel like it's not really in-depth enough. A lot of people are not really understanding how animal control works and why it's so important. On a side note, I'm going to be doing a lot of guides now that I'm stuck at home, so if you want to stay tuned for that, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. So, why is controlling animals so important? So a lot of this game is about creating a lead and maintaining it, right? So you gain experience every time you land an attack. Mastery, you just have to attack. You can even just miss, right? So by attacking an animal, you gain mastery and you gain experience, right? I'll go more into that later. You also gain 1 experience for killing crow, bat, and osprey, 2 experience for killing dog and bloodhounds, 3 for gorilla, bear, 5 for wickline, and 15 for Mr. Meiji. Excuse me. So, as you can see, it's very important to make sure to kill them. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, but what about food? Well, I mean, crow and osprey have their built-in food mechanisms, right? Where they drop bird meats and bird eggs. But another thing to keep in mind is that crow also drops an icebox in its lot. So, you know the icebox supply that gives you like a random ingredient? So it'll give you a random ingredient. That could be a potato, it could be food, it could be various different things. The icebox drop has the potential to win the game. Schrodinger's box has a 50% chance of adding an icebox to the drop table. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So you'll sometimes have an option of 4 different things, and by maintaining control, you can actually stay very strong. I'm not going to go into detail quite yet about where they spawn. I just want to talk about the different advantages. Osprey is actually less contested than crow is. A lot of that has to do with the fact that mid-game a lot of people sit on trail and forest, so by the time they spawn, they're usually hunted down, whereas osprey's areas are not there. So if I need a feather in my build, I usually like to search for an osprey the moment they spawn, which is they spawn after the first restriction of the game. So that's 3 minutes into the game. So usually 3 minutes will hit, I'll be like, do I need a feather in my build? If I do, I go for osprey. I am actually a little bit in the way. I'm going to move myself a little bit to make this more clear. And like, move myself here. So as you can see, osprey is in all the sea areas, beach, docks, and lighthouse. Whereas crow is in forest, trail, pond, forest. So you might think, okay, so bat's clearly the weakest, right? It just gives you bread, water, and a type A supply. A type A supply is a weapon supply. That couldn't be further from the truth. Type A supply has the potential to give you gemstone. Gemstone is considered a thrown weapon. It also has the option to give you a carp, which is also considered a thrown weapon. Just as an example, you shouldn't be ignoring animals if you have the opportunity to time one, even if it's one of the weakest ones. Then you have hunting dog and bloodhound. These also spawn in first round, after the first 3 minutes of the game. This one gives you an icebox. So a lot of people actually prioritize getting hunting dog first if they're strong enough because of that icebox drop, and you get more experience out of it. You also get the type A supply, so again, you can grab that gemstone or you can grab that carp if it drops. But bloodhound is equally as important because it gives you a lighter. And it gives you A and D supply. So, you know, you could potentially get the armor piece you need. I've seen people get glasses off of bloodhound. They're like, okay, now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Then you have gorilla and bear. These are super important to time throughout the entire game. Gorilla and bear both spawn at 6 minutes. Now, a lot of people value bear over gorilla because reasons. I'm going to be really honest with you, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They're both equally important. So, pickled garlic, which is, I should probably mention this first. So, soy sauce is very valuable to collect before you start controlling bear and gorilla, if you can. All the soy sauces are usually picked up before then. So, there's 2 here. They're usually gone by the time mid-game hits. And then there's 3 here. It's actually not uncommon to see people hoarding soy sauces and then looking to control bear gorilla. And the reason why that's so important is because with soy sauce, you can make pickled garlic, which is like, what, 250 in healing. And then braised burdock, which is 180 healing, which basically means that even if you miss on your supply drops when you kill bear and gorilla, you're always guaranteed healing. Another thing that a lot of people don't keep in mind is when they're deciding whether or not to control bear or gorilla first is look at your inventory. If you don't have stamina, you should be going for gorilla, because that burdock can be used for burdock tea with boiling water. It gives you some stamina and helps you control the match as the game progresses. The reason why I say bear and gorilla are equally as important is if you look at their drops, right? A, D, and an icebox. If we look at gorilla, I pressed the wrong one. You still get the icebox. Like, the fact that the icebox in there is what's so important. Like, sure, this one also gives, like, a weapon, which means, like, more potential drops. But the point is that the icebox is more likely to give you food out of anything. And then at 9 minutes, Dr. Wickline spawns. If you check my... I can't speak today. If you check my guide on steel and iron sheets, which you should be able to find over here, you'll actually have a better idea of how to better prepare yourself for Wickline when it spawns and how to quickly build the orange weapon. The orange weapon has the potential to win you the game even if you're behind. So if you find a Wickline and you don't make noise there and you get to get Wickline, then that's great. Now she spawns in a random area at 9 minutes, and every new round she changes areas. That's a good thing to keep in mind of. She gives Holy Blood the first 8 kits, A, D, and Icebox. So she's really good to get, and she's also really good to control her corpse if you have the time to do so. I feel like even if you're new, you should be practicing trying to make that orange weapon as quickly as possible, because the faster you get at it, the more powerful you'll be in your games where you do get her. I see a lot of people just ditching the possibility of getting the orange weapon just because it's too hard, and I'm like, if you don't practice it, you're losing out on a very good power spike. So let's talk a little bit more about controlling these animals. So the best way to think about it is, I think about it as this is 2 minutes minus 10 seconds. Crow, Osprey, and Bat. This is 2 minutes 30 seconds minus 10 seconds. I'm saying it this way because that 2 minutes and 2 minutes 30 seconds was how it used to be, and then like 3 minutes minus 10 seconds, right? So this means that this respawns in 1 minute and 50 seconds, this respawns in 2 minutes 20 seconds, and these respawn in 2 minutes 50 seconds. These don't respawn at all. Mr. Meiji actually only appears in Research Lab if JP manages to pull off a successful hack, which that's another video for another day. So how can you control these things? Because we already know that Crow, Osprey, and Bat are particularly difficult to control because they die the moment they find them. Somebody finds them. But the reality is that if you're timing them, you have a good idea of every time they respawn, right? So let's say you get Osprey immediately, right? So we'll just say it's 2 minutes 55 seconds on the clock when you kill Osprey. That means that in 1 minute and 50 seconds from then, so 1 minute and 5 seconds on the clock, Osprey will respawn. You can come back, kill Osprey again. If you don't kill Osprey, that means somebody found it before you, which means that you take that 1 minute and 5 seconds on the clock when you expected it to respawn, and you're like, okay, so 1 minute 50 minus 1 minute and 5 seconds, that's 45 seconds. So 45 seconds into the next round, it should respawn, and I can check for it. Another thing to keep in mind is that in their initial spawn, the first time they spawn, they have a chance to spawn in a restricted area. If they do that, they're considered dead, and it starts counting for the respawn time, right? So like, let's say you're hunting for a hunting dog. Excuse me. And you check both of the areas that could spawn in and you don't find it. You're like, okay, that means that when it's 40 seconds on the clock, because it's 3 minutes minus 2 minutes 20 seconds, that's 40 seconds on the clock, you'll know that hunting dog's back up. It's also just a general good practice to be checking at around 40 seconds for dogs anyway after the end of first restriction, because you can usually find it then. You can actually win games off of just controlling dogs. You don't necessarily have to control bear, gorilla, even though it's more important. And then same kind of deal with gorilla and bear. Like, if you see a situation where, like, let's say in archery range, fire station, factory, it comes into second restriction, and only archery range is up, I will go there, check to see if it's there, right? If it's not, I know it'll respawn at 10 seconds at the end of the restriction. I'll make sure to go there later. These are good things to check and good information to have. If you're paying attention to noise around the map, you can also get a good idea of what people are going for, and then you can try to control other animals, right? So like, let's say that you initially wanted to control hunting dog, and you decide that I'm going to check alley first. You don't find it at alley, but you hear noise at slums and school. So you're like, okay, if I try to look for this hunting dog, I'm probably not going to find it. My time is better spent trying to get the other dog, Bloodhound, because I don't hear noise at Hotel, Uptown, and Town Hall. And because you heard noise in all the hunting dogs places, you know at around 40 seconds, I would actually probably give it like 5 more seconds, so like around 35 seconds, you can actually come back and get the hunting dog. So that's like a little bit more in-depth guide in how to control animals. A lot of it is paying attention to noise. I should also mention that the way the game registers damage, or when an animal dies, right? So an animal is considered killed the moment that you deal lethal damage to it, right? Which sounds obvious, but so let's say you aren't surprised, you attack it, right? If you attack it, then the moment you press the attack button is the moment on the timer when it dies. But if it surprise attacks you, if you look at the bottom left corner where your health bar is, you'll notice that your health bar actually goes down before the animal even hits you, right? That's because it's already registered that you'd attacked it. So the moment that you see the health bar go down, that's when the animal died, and you can actually get a more precise timer on it that way. Usually not too important, but it does mean that you'll probably end up saving like 1 or 2 seconds, which is something to keep in mind. And it actually ends up confusing some people when they're doing animal control. So I hope that helped you guys out a little bit. Just in general, when you're doing animal control, the moment that they spawn is when you should go for them. You shouldn't be waiting. You shouldn't be waiting 10 seconds. Just animal spawn, go find an animal, kill it, and then continue what you're doing. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Peace.